I'm going to be doing a walkthrough for IS3230. It's Access Security. It's version 1, and this is going to be our first virtual lab. I already went ahead and I opened up our VLab. First thing you should do is download the instructions by clicking here to download the instructions. Once you have the instructions, go ahead and start the assessment. You'll notice that, again, this is what's going to be required. You need to do screenshots for these areas and answer the lab questions. Once you make sure you know what you're going to be capturing, go ahead and access our virtual lab. The actual initialization does take a few minutes. So anything that takes over a few minutes, I'm going to pause it so that you guys don't have to wait. One thing that you do need to pay attention to is watch for Java run applets. You do have to run them. I've noticed that most people don't realize that they're popping up in the background, so pay attention to that. It should load a Server 2003 virtual machine. For this lab, we are setting up our Microsoft Assessment and Planning Toolkit. And so once our VM is fully loaded, we're going to go ahead and navigate to our ISSA VM server farm RDP folder. Again, step 1 in our lab document says to do that. So go ahead and go through the icon on the desktop, find the appropriate one. And it says to go ahead and launch Target Windows 02 RDP. Okay, so it doesn't say it in the steps, but I've noticed that when we go to log in as student, if you type in the password, because it is capital, numbers, and lowercase letters, there's some issues. So I found a way to kind of fix some of those issues by turning on CapsLock. It will let you know that it's on. Go ahead and type in the appropriate password. You have to pay attention to make sure that CapsLock stays on, because it doesn't always stay on. And that's one of the biggest issues with people trying to log in. They have the correct password, it's just they're not seeing the capitalization or the lowercase letters because they're either caps lock or they're not doing caps lock. Be patient when you're typing your password and just verify that, again, caps lock is on when you do the capital letters, and each character you want to verify. So once we're in, we're going to go ahead and open up our assessment planning and toolkit. We should go to start. It should already be in our list. Microsoft Assessment and Planning Toolkit. Go ahead and open it. You may get a UAC pop-up. Are you sure you want to run the MAP console? Yes, we are. And again, be patient, it will load. Okay, so here you're going to fill out your name. I'm just doing student. For our description, we are doing map database for lab 1. We're creating a new one and we're clicking OK. It will, once it's done, provide you a data collection screen. Pay attention to where you're supposed to do screenshots, because this is an area for a screenshot. So once we're ready to begin, you'll notice that perform an inventory. It's incomplete, so we're going to go ahead and run it by clicking on the Go button. you can actually select what areas we want to do. And our lab environment, we just want to do Windows Computer, but you can set up active devices, Exchange servers, SQL servers. You can kind of be more flexible. We're just doing, again, Windows computers. We're going to be selecting which method to discover our computers. You can have it check Active Directory, but what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just scan address ranges. And our start address is the address for our RDP client 1, and that is 172.30.0.103. Even though we are, oh, it does not like tab. Even though we're only searching for one address, we're going to list that as the start and our end address. And once you click out of the box, you should have the next option. If you don't click out of the box, you don't get the next option. And it should go ahead and scan. You may have to create an account. Our account is going to be administrator. So account name, administrator. And again, same thing with passwords. Turn on the caps lock. It will notify you. IS3230. And repeat, again, verify it is taking the caps lock. They should be the same length, applies to WMI, that is all good. We're going to go ahead and click save, and we should be able to hit next. We are doing a WMI, our credentials for administrator, verify those are all good, go and hit next. Should give us a basic summary, and yes, that's what we want to do. Verify your address range. As long as that's all correct, we're going to go ahead and click on finish, and it will perform the scan. You'll notice that it will scan address range 1, and it should get a newly discovered account, which is 1. That's what we wanted. Once you see that, it will finish. We're going to go ahead and close it, and it should refresh with a complete. Okay, on my machine it took about 3 minutes, but it finally shows complete. So once that is done, we're going to go ahead and go to our data collection, machine summary. And we're going to go ahead and click on view. We want to see what the machine was. It was Server 2008 Standard. Its name is WIN-2FT blah 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 blah. Not a very appropriate name for a server, but that's our guy. So once we see that, we can go ahead and back out. We're going to complete the same steps for our application summary and our Windows Server 2008 readiness. Windows 2008 R2 readiness. Again, we're just verifying that it meets the system requirements, it has the updates, it has everything that it needs to run like it's supposed to. Again, pay attention to where the screenshots are needed. So once you've completed that, we are done with this. It's a good idea to actually run all of the incompleted ones, that way we have a whole view. However, we're not dealing with any Azure or our private cloud material for server, so we're going to go ahead and stop there. Go ahead and exit out of all of it. And now we're going to go ahead and log into our target window 01, which should be a Server 2008 R2. We're going to be promoting this to a domain controller. Again, password, same thing, CapsLock. If you do not do the caps lock, I've had hit and miss success, so just be careful with that. We may get some random pop-ups because it is server. Things like this, that's okay. Go ahead and close all the pop-ups that you do get. We're promoting this to a domain controller, so start, type DC promo. Remember, because we're dealing with Server 2008, this is appropriate. If we were dealing with Server 2012, you can no longer do DC promo. So just keep that in mind. You should see it come up, DC promo, all one word. We're going to go ahead and open it. If you're trying to duplicate this in your own environment, you have to make sure to set the administrator to have a password. Because if the administrator doesn't have a password, it will actually prompt you saying, hey, the local administrator doesn't have a password, you cannot continue. And so if you actually go to Server Manager, explore down to Configuration, Local Users and Groups, then Users, because it should just be this by default. From there, Configuration, Local Users and Groups, Users, find Administrator, set a password for it, otherwise you may get a no local administrator, no password. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close that in the background. We're going to be doing a basic setup for Active Directory, so don't worry about the advanced. Operating system compatibility. Realistically, if you are working in a business in this year, 2015, you're not dealing with older operating systems, so Server 2003, end of life, so don't even have to really worry about that. XP, it's already end of life. Anything prior to that, again, we don't really have to worry about. So go ahead and read through that. When you're done reading through it, go ahead and hit next. Do we have DNS set up? So this was something that was not in our directions. So if DNS is not set up, then it will actually prompt you to go ahead and automatically set it up. So yes, we want to automatically set it up. You may only get this if your DNS is not set up. Normally when we have a server running, we let Active Directory manage DNS. So you can actually just have Server 2008, a blank installation, go to DC promo it, let it install DNS, that way it's going to manage it. Make sure that's checked. Go and hit next. Do we have an existing forest? No, we don't. We have no other Active Directory, so we're setting up a new Active Directory with a new forest. We're going to be calling it corp.swift.com, which is kind of weird because we could also set up swift.com as its own domain and then have corp.swift.com as a subdomain. I'm using Swift. You should use your last name. Again, follow the lab instructions. Our lab document shows Jesse Swift. I'm not Jesse Swift, but I'm just using their last name. So once you've done that, make sure corp.lastname.com, go to next. It will verify that the forest name is not already in use, i.e. no other names are already out there that has it. And that can take a few minutes. Normally on a decent machine, it should only take 30-40 seconds. On this virtual machine with my internet, it took about 10 minutes. Once we get to our forest and domain functional level, we're going to head and promote that to Server 2008 R2. I'm assuming you already have a basic understanding of what Active Directory is and how it works on the functional level, so I'm not going to explain that. Again, notice DNS is already checked. If it's not checked, make sure it's checked. Once we are ready, go ahead and click on Next. You may get a delegation for DNS cannot be created. There is no parent zone. Well, if this is the first domain controller in the network, of course there's not going to be a designated zone above it, because this is going to become it. Also, you may get, if you have static addresses set, you may get a message saying that you need to set static addresses even if they're already set. Server 2008 is kind of weird like that. How we read this is, do we want to continue? Yes. These are going to be our database folders. I'm assuming we're leaving them default. We're going to set a backup password, so if we have to do any form of recovery. Again, CapsLock. This not being able to hit tab is kind of very annoying. Again, you want to make sure CapsLock is on and you are typing all of the appropriate characters. You want to make sure that they are both the same length. I keep hitting tab so it keeps automatically putting an I in there. Bad habit. Verify. Our domain is corp. Notice that it's not corp.swift.com because corp is a subdomain of swift.com. But verify everything else is there. It's not a read-only domain controller, correct. Has DNS. Okay, once we're ready, go ahead and click on Next. And it will do the installation. I'm going to have it reboot on completion and let it go through its thing. This can take anywhere between a few minutes and an hour or so. So I'm going to pause it and I will come back when it restarts. Okay, it just restarted. When it restarts, it will close the connection out. So we're going to go back to our RDP connection. It may not allow the connection because, again, the machine is restarting, so it still has to start back up. So be patient. If you try RDPing to it too quickly, you may get a no connection. Again, just be patient. Try it again. It will allow you to connect back to it once it's done restarting. So, at least for me, it did take a few minutes for it to actually allow me to connect. So, I went ahead and double click on it. It should load back up. But again, remember it's still completing the installation for Active Directory, so it may take a minute or two. We're going to be logging in with our new domain username. Remember, our domain name is corp, and our username is administrator. Notice it's not BaseLab version 1. That is not the correct user. That's the local machine name, and that's the local administrator. We want to go to other users, corp slash, you notice how it changes the logon to the domain, administrator, again, CapsLock, you will notice that the first time you log into it, your password will expire. You have to change it. I'm actually going to change it back to the same password. Again, verify it's the same length. Because it does not like the password for history, it will not let me do that. So I'm going to go ahead and set it one more time. Except this time, my new password, I'm going to do it all, I'm going to do capital I, capital S, and the rest all lowercase. So once we log in, it will let us log in. But what we want to do, because all of our lab documents state that the password is the password that it provides, we want to go ahead and we want to change our password back to what it should be. Again, close any of the pop-up windows that may pop up. And we're going to go back to Administrative Tools, Active Directory Users and Computers. You expand your domain, corp.lastname.com. It should be under Users. Find your account, which we're administrator, and we are going to reset our password. Make sure that it is set to the password that is in the lab document. It gets very weird with the passwords, so just be consistent with only using the password in the lab document. Uncheck login or change at the next logon. Click OK. Password should be accepted. And that is the end of Lab 1.